Today's grocery haul is just a little bit different because I'm showing you my 20 item capsule grocery haul. What's a capsule grocery haul? Well, it is very similar to Jennifer L. Scott's 10 item capsule wardrobe, where you have 10 core items and then you have extras that complement those 10 core items and everything works together. So on my capsule grocery haul, I will have 20 core items, 20 core categories of things, and then my extras will complement those. So every single thing that I buy all works together. So I can make meals with very little planning. This video is brought to you by Aprondiva. Pretty and practical, we believe that an apron can be a homemaker's best accessory. Visit us at www.aprondiva.com. And category number 1 is meat. And I put meat as category 1 simply because that is what I tend to plan my meals around. We do eat meat. Occasionally I'll do a vegan or vegetarian meal, but for the most part our meals contain meat. And I tend to buy chicken and then ground beef and ground turkey. I don't buy much fish because I am married to the big fisherman of the Midwest, and he stocks our freezer in the spring and summer so that we've got plenty of fish to last us all year round. So when I look at the meat and fish category, I'll purchase meat, but I rarely purchase fish. Now when we look at the meat that I do purchase, I will tend to buy a whole chicken, something that I can use for roasting that will serve quite a few people. And sometimes I'll cut those whole chickens in half and freeze them using my American Harvest vacuum sealer or my food saver. And then I will also tend to pick up a rotisserie chicken. Particularly on grocery day, I'll grab a rotisserie chicken so that I can come home and get something on the table pretty quickly. And that rotisserie chicken I will often cut in half, and maybe we'll have part of it on one day and then I'll use the rest to make chicken salad or chicken and dumplings or some other chicken dish. I will also tend to get ground beef, ground turkey, and every now and then, if they have chops on sale, I'll get some pork chops because we do enjoy having pork chops. Now, what can I use these different things for? The ground beef or the ground turkey I can use to make tacos, I can use to make soup, I can use to make spaghetti with meat sauce, hamburger or ground turkey patties. There are so many things you can do with ground beef and ground turkey. So they are definitely good buys, and that is why these, along with the chicken, is at the top of my 20 item capsule grocery haul. And one other thing I forgot to mention is that sometimes, if the price is right, I will buy boneless, skinless chicken breasts because they can be used in so many things as well. And because they're already boneless and skinless, they cook up pretty quickly. I like to use those if I'm going to make, say, honey garlic chicken or a rice bowl or some kind of a stir fry. But chicken is your go-to everything dish, as well as your ground beef and your ground turkey. And then for special occasions, maybe I'll do some really nice bone-in pork chops. When I make those, I'm making my apple pork chops with a recipe that I got from my friend Mary at Mary's Nest. Item number 2 on my 20 item capsule grocery haul is carrots, onions, and celery. Now I place these 3 items as one category because I use them so much, and usually when I use them together. If I'm making a roast chicken, it's going to sit atop a bed of carrots, onions, and celery. If I'm making a rice bowl, I'm going to roughly chop some carrots, onions, and celery. And in just so many dishes, even soups, I'm using carrots, onions, and celery. And whereas I do tend to make these fresh, I do have some frozen soup vegetables that also contains the carrots, onions, and celery that I will also use. Now, whereas this bag of frozen soup vegetables does contain the carrots, onions, and celery, it also has some other vegetables. And to be honest, there's not as much of the carrot in here as I would prefer. So I will typically end up adding some of my own carrot anyway. So I put these together as my Trinity and number 2 on the list instead of putting them with the vegetables. Where would you put them on your 20-item capsule grocery haul? Tell me in the comments section. Item number 3 on my 20-item capsule grocery haul is rice. And we eat a lot of rice in my family. My husband loves rice, I love rice, our children liked rice, so we eat a lot of rice, and rice is so healthy for you. It can help give you some good energy, and it certainly is a great side dish. It's what I would call a meal extender. Put some kind of a meat on the table or some kind of a vegan or vegetarian option with the protein. Put it on top of rice or beside the rice, and you've got yourself a good meal. My husband likes to make rice when he's cooking dinner, but he's not going to take the time to cook these rices that take more than 2 minutes to make. He likes to use these Ben's original rice. You can put it in the microwave and in 90 seconds you've got rice. He fries fish a lot for dinner, or he'll make some kind of a chicken dish, and then he will make the rice to go along with that as a side dish. So I always keep some of this on hand. Now when I have the time or plan ahead, I will either use this Basmati rice or long grain rice, or even this royal rice blend, and I will make up a pot of that and then put it in the refrigerator so that we can have it to use over the next couple of days. But if I haven't done that and he needs some rice in a hurry, he's going to reach for one of these. So rice pilaf, Spanish rice, long grain and wild rice, and then of course your roasted chicken rice. All of these are delicious. Now these packs cost about $2.99 a pack. Now they have gone up in price, as has everything else. And right now, with rice being somewhat of a shortage in some areas, the price of rice has gone up as well. But we always make sure to have some of the Ben's original ready rice on our grocery list. And then I also like to have either some jasmine rice or some basmati rice so that I can make with other dishes. I use the rice for my rice bowls, for tacos, as a side dish, rice pudding, and just for so many other dishes. And this is just your plain old long grain white rice. I also will have brown rice, but I couldn't lay my hands on the brown rice just yet. And then this Rice Select Royal Blend is absolutely amazing. It's got white rice, wild rice, some brown rice, and then some other rices in it, and it tastes absolutely delicious. Now these rices take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes to cook, so it does take some pre-planning, but they are wonderful in all your dishes. And I particularly like rice bowls for breakfast, for lunch, or on Taco Tuesday when I'm trying to simulate the adobo chicken bowl, blah, blah, blah. And when I'm trying to simulate the adobo chicken bowl that I get at Qdoba. Number 4 on the list is milk. And milk is useful for so many things. If you've got children, of course, you're going to use it for drinking. But it's just the hubby and I here, so we don't really drink a lot of milk. But we do use milk on cereal, and we enjoy cold cereal. We also use milk in cooking, baking, and I like to put milk in chocolate milk. And on the days that I may have run out of milk, I like to have some dry milk on hand so that I can make up a batch of whole milk or low-fat milk and have it in the fridge. And this milk tastes delicious. This is one of the items that I have on my prep shelf, and I was out of milk, so I thought, okay, let's make up a batch, and it tastes just wonderful. I use it in cereal and of course in baking and cooking. I also like to use coconut milk in cooking, and I've also discovered how delicious a carton of coconut milk is. So I will now buy that and use that for drinking or for cereal. And then I will also tend to buy almond milk because my husband prefers that. And then of course you gotta have some carnation evaporated milk for cooking, baking, and other things, and sweetened condensed milk for baking. So milk is definitely on the 20 item capsule grocery haul. Eggs are number 5 on my 20 item capsule grocery list. Whenever I start a grocery list, I always kind of go through this little litany in my head: milk, bread, eggs, and cheese. So eggs have always been somewhere at the top of my list, and you can do so many things with eggs. For the most part, we use eggs for breakfast. I like them scrambled, fried, easy over, and I love a 2 or 3 egg omelet filled with veggies, spinach, and cheese. I also like to use eggs in baking. You can make your own pancakes and cakes and just so many other things. They're even included in my mac and cheese recipe, so eggs are definitely worthy of being included on my 20 item capsule grocery list. And next on the list is cheese. And I had just said earlier that when I'm working on my grocery list, I'm thinking milk, bread, eggs, and cheese. So here we go with the cheese. I use a lot of shredded cheddar cheese when I'm making my mac and cheese, when I am making tacos, when I'm making omelets, and so many other dishes. However, I will buy block cheese and shred the cheese myself when needed. I've got some mozzarella cheese here, which I will use when I'm making Italian dishes like lasagna. And then, of course, I've got some Gruyere cheese when I just want cheese with a nice, fresh, kind of a nutty flavor. And of course, I've got Velveeta, which is a cheese product. When I was a young homemaker with kids at home, we used a lot of Velveeta in mac and cheese and in grilled cheese sandwiches and things like that. It melts up so easily, so it was very nice to use. Makes a great cheese sauce. It melts probably better than your shredded cheddar cheeses and those kinds of things, particularly because you know your shredded cheddars, they have some kind of a excipient in it to kind of keep the cheese from sticking together, whereas your block cheeses don't have that. But cheeses are a great source of protein. You can replace the meat in a meal with cheese. Mac and cheese makes a great side dish or a great main dish. Next on the list is bread. Remember, milk, bread, eggs, and cheese. So here we go with bread. And I will tend to get 1 or 2 loaves of sliced bread. Now, I don't get as much bread as I did at one time. Since it's just the hubby and I here, I will tend to get 1 loaf of bread, and sometimes I might even buy a half loaf of bread. I do make bread occasionally, but not often. I also like to pick up some Thomas English muffins, or I make it bagels in place of those because I do like having English muffins or bagels with cream cheese in the morning for breakfast sometimes. My husband likes cinnamon raisin bread, so sometimes I will pick up some of that. But bread is what I call a meal extender. It's something else you can put on the plate to just kind of fill up a hungry belly. And when I was a girl at home, we always had bread on the table. My dad had a slice of bread on his plate at every meal. So when we sat at the table, we'd have to take the salt, the pepper, and the bread. And when I was a young housewife, my husband always had bread with every meal, so I did the same thing. I'd make sure the bread was available so that we would have that. I don't eat bread so much like that, but I do like bread in the mornings for toast. I like bread for sandwiches. I like to make French toast and different things like that. So bread is certainly a staple on my 20 item capsule grocery haul. Next on the list is flour, and with flour I can make that bread that I talked about in the milk, bread, eggs, and cheese. And flour is just so important. I always encourage my young homemakers to have flour on hand as a core item, along with the extra of salt, baking powder, baking soda, so that they can make things with the flour. For example, they can make their own shelf-stable pancake mix. You can make cakes. You can bake bread and all kinds of things. Right here I've got some bread flour because I do plan to make some bread within the next week or so. So I've got some bread flour here. I use whole wheat flour for the most part, but I also have some all-purpose flour because when I use the whole wheat flour, if I'm making biscuits or something like that, sometimes it will color them a little darker than usual. And then I've got some maseca flour, which is kind of like masa flour, and I have not used it yet, but I plan to learn how to make tortillas with that. And then I've got some all-purpose flour, and I bagged it up with my food saver so that when I need to get it, I can. I've got it in 2-cup and 6-cup portions, so if I'm going to bake bread and I need 6 cups, I've got a bag that's got that amount in it. And then with the maseca flour, I've just got it in 2-cup portions because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it and how much is going to be needed. But you can just do so much with flour. You can use it as a breading, and you can even make your own pasta. And that's one of the things I plan on doing. I did get a pasta maker recently, and I'm going to learn to make my own pasta. And we'll see what happens. And since we just talked about flour and the possibility of baking bread, next on my list is cornmeal. It's another one of those pantry staple items that I think every homemaker should have. I use cornmeal to make cornbread muffins, and cornbread dressing. Now, you're probably thinking, well, if you've got flour, just make bread or make biscuits and be done with it. But in my family, we have a lot of soups and chilies and cabbage and collard and turnip greens. So if you have any kind of greens on the table, you're expected to have some cornbread on the side. If you're making chili or some kind of a hearty bean soup, you're expected to have some corn muffins on the side. So corn muffins or cornbread is pretty much a staple around the Jordan household. So I do like to make my own most of the time. However, I will admit that I do love Jiffy Mix. But if I'm really trying to cut back on the things that I'm picking up on a particular week, I'll skip buying the Jiffy Mix and then I will make my own. I'll just go online and look for a Jiffy Mix dupe. And then my husband uses the cornmeal when he's breading his fish. He has some little special recipe that he uses with cornmeal and flour and a bunch of spices that makes the most wonderful fish breading. Coming in at number 10 on my 20-item capsule grocery list are taco shells. Taco Tuesday is a thing at our house, and in so many other homes across the country, Taco Tuesday is a real thing. So I like to keep a couple of boxes of taco shells in the pantry so that on Taco Tuesday or any other day that I feel like having tacos, I can just pull those out, whip up my ingredients for tacos, and I've got taco shells ready to go. Now I know you're probably thinking, well, with your flour or your cornmeal, you can make your own taco shells. Probably so, but I've never tried that. I've not yet made my own taco shells. I think I may try that with my maseca flour, and we'll see what's what. But in the meantime, I use the old El Paso taco shells, and they're just handy and ready to go whenever I need them. So if you're looking for a quick and easy weeknight meal, tacos is the way to go. And kids tend to love tacos. And my favorite tacos are these stand-and stuffed taco shells because I can stuff them and they'll stay flat and not be falling all over the place. And if you've made your own taco shells and you don't mind sharing a recipe, please leave me a comment. I would love to know how to make them and use a recipe that's tried and true from someone out there. Potatoes are next on my 20-item capsule grocery list. You can just do so many things with potatoes. Sweet potatoes and white potatoes. With the sweet potatoes, baked sweet potatoes, candied sweet potatoes, sweet potato stew, sweet potato soup, sweet potato souffle and casserole, as well as sweet potato fries. With your white potatoes, of course, you can use them in soups and stews and mashed potatoes, baked potatoes, roasted root vegetables, French fries, just you name it. Just about any dish you make, you can toss a potato in it, and they are very inexpensive. So you can certainly fill up some hungry bellies with potatoes. So I definitely count them as meal extenders. So you definitely want to have some potatoes on your list. And whereas I tend to buy my potatoes fresh, you can get canned sliced potatoes or canned cubed potatoes. These work very well in soups and stews. You can also get potatoes frozen, French fries, potato cakes, potato tots, and different things like that. And then of course you can always buy mashed potatoes in a box or mashed potatoes that come in little individual servings like this. However, the best buy for your bucks are going to be to get them fresh and make them yourself. That way you know exactly what's in them and you can make them in the amount that you need. Next on the list are tomatoes. And tomatoes are what we call meal makers, because with some tomatoes you can make a meal out of almost nothing. Throw in a little pasta, a little rice, maybe some potatoes, maybe some beans, and you've got yourself a meal. Now, when tomatoes are in season, I like to get them fresh. I'll buy as many as I can, and then I will can them, or I will use them fresh in salad. So I like these grape tomatoes for salad, as well as these Roma tomatoes to slice and serve. And when my husband is frying fish, especially in the summertime, he likes to have either fried green tomatoes or sliced red tomatoes on the plate with rice and fish. So we always have tomatoes in some form. I keep canned tomatoes here because with canned tomatoes I can make tomato sauce, I can make pasta sauce, I can make chili sauce, I can make almost any kind of tomato type sauce that I need with canned tomatoes or fresh tomatoes. But I will admit sometimes I just don't have the time. So I like to keep some jars of pasta sauce, which are tomato based, on hand. One of my favorite kind is the Bertolli rustic cut, which the vegetables are nice and thick and chunky and the sauce is delicious. And then the classical tomato and basil sauce. I like these. So I will buy fresh tomatoes all year long. However, when they are in season, I will buy more of them so that I can can them and freeze them and make all different kinds of sauces and things that I may need. However, as I said earlier, I do keep canned tomatoes on hand because the canned diced tomatoes or canned crushed tomatoes, I can make whatever it is that I need when I need it as far as a tomato product. And then of course I'm going to have my jars of pasta sauce on hand when I'm in a pinch. And canned tomatoes come in so many different ways. You can get them fire roasted, you can get them chili ready, you can get them with basil and oregano and different things like that for your Italian dishes. And then of course you can get crushed tomatoes that you might want to use in your chilies and soups and things like that. So tomatoes are definitely some meal extenders that you always want to make sure you've got on your list. And since we were talking about pasta sauce, next on the list is pasta. Pasta is another one of those meal makers or meal extenders. Just add a little bit of a sauce, whether it's a red sauce, which I tend to prefer, or some kind of Alfredo sauce that you make with a milk base. It definitely goes over well with most families, and people do not leave the table hungry. Add a little bit of ground beef, ground turkey, a little shrimp, chicken, whatever you want to add, or maybe just cheese, and you've got a meal. I always have a box of lasagna noodles on hand because I like to make lasagna. And then we make a lot of spaghetti with meat sauce, or I'll have a killer vegetarian spaghetti that I like to make. Mac and cheese is a big family favorite, so I always have macaroni noodles on hand, as well as other kind of like curlicue noodles to use for salads or soups or just as a side dish. And then of course I like these Amish noodles that you can use for chicken noodle soup, chicken noodle casserole, or other dishes. So pasta is definitely a huge item on my 20 item capsule grocery haul. Number 14 on the list is beans. I use a lot of beans, particularly these canned black beans, because we have black beans in our tacos or in our rice bowls. I love this 15 bean soup, and It's a dried bean and it is so hearty and healthy, so it just really makes a huge pot. And then there are pinto beans and lentils, and then of course other canned beans. You could get canned garbanzo beans, chili beans, as well as grilling beans. So beans are high in protein, and you can use them in place of meat. You can use them as a main dish. You can use them as a filler, as a side dish, in soups and stews, and so many different ways. And I remember I would read in some of my British novels that they would have beans on toast sometimes in the morning for breakfast. So beans are definitely hearty and healthy. You can do a lot with beans. And depending upon how much time I've got, I'll put my 15 bean soup in the slow cooker. I'll cook it on top of the stove, or you can also cook these beans in your Instapot. So beans are definitely something that I'm always throwing in the cart when I'm putting together my 20 item capsule grocery haul. So depending upon the time that I've got to prepare them, just may determine the kind of beans that I pick up. Number 15 on the list is vegetables, and you can use those vegetables either fresh, frozen, or canned. It just depends upon what's in season, what fits your budget, and what you have time to prepare. I tend to buy fresh broccoli and fresh root vegetables like parsnips and carrots and potatoes and things like that. However, I will use those same items frozen depending upon the time I have, what's available, and what I just happen to have in my pantry. Cucumbers for salads, and then of course you can get those potatoes frozen and use them as a side dish, or put them in stews or something like that. And then you can get your cauliflower frozen or fresh, and the same thing goes with your broccoli. And of course you've always got different varieties of canned vegetables. And when I'm choosing my vegetables, I prefer fresh, but frozen is probably second best because they can flash freeze them and all the nutrients are still locked inside. Canning is probably my least favorite way to take vegetables in, but for some reason I do enjoy canned green beans. And then canned corn is amazing. Canned carrots, not so much. So my question for you is, what vegetable do you use most often for your family? We use a lot of frozen corn, a lot of canned green beans, a lot of fresh broccoli, and then of course parsnips, cucumber, tomatoes, those kinds of things. What works out best for your family? Tell me in the comment section. I'm going to mention fruit next, particularly since half of our plate should be filled with fruits and vegetables. I thought it was just relevant to bring fruits on next. And you can get those fruits fresh, like bananas and apples and pears, or you can get them in jars or cans. I'll also get in bags of frozen fruit. I like this triple berry blend for smoothies. And then of course I also like these blueberries, the frozen blueberries, to use for smoothies. If I want to make blueberry syrup or blueberry lemonade, then I've got plenty of blueberries to do that. And then you've got your lemons and your limes to use for tacos and to season other dishes. So I've got that. And then the apples and the pears you can just eat like they are. Just give them a good wash and then either just take a good bite out of them or use a slicer and cut them up into wedges. Now these pears I tend to use for smoothies. I'll buy 4 to 6 pears, planning to use at least 4 of them for smoothies, but I need to make sure I get them used up before my husband sees them because he loves pears and he will eat them. So for this particular haul I had purchased 4 and we're already down to 2. But your fruit can be jarred, like these jars of peaches, or cans, fresh or frozen. You definitely want to have fruit on your 20 item capsule grocery haul. Next on the list is bell peppers. I didn't add them to the list with the fruits because I use bell peppers differently. I use them to add a little spice or a little extra flavor or seasoning to foods that I'm making. I'll slice them up and put them in soups and stews and salads. I might slice them up or chunk them up and use them as a low-calorie snack. So I don't use them like I use fruit. So where would you put them? Would you leave the bell peppers as an itemized category on their own, or would you move them into the fruit so you'd have another item that you could slip on to your 20 item capsule grocery list? Let me know in the comment section. Next on the list is yogurt, and I struggled with this one because I know I could use milk and make my own yogurt, but I don't make my own yogurt. And here's the thing, I typically will buy plain low-fat Greek yogurt. So I can use the yogurt in place of sour cream if I have a recipe that calls for sour cream. Most days I'm using this yogurt in smoothies, but I can put it in a bowl and add a little bit of fruit, granola, dried cranberries, and I've got a nice little breakfast. And if I need to make some cornbread, corn muffins, buttermilk biscuits, or anything that requires sour cream, I can swap out the yogurt for the sour cream. However, I wouldn't eat a bowl of sour cream. So what would you do if you were me and you were trying to pare down your grocery list? Would you buy the sour cream and make your own yogurt, or would you just buy the yogurt? Now, I would love to try making my own yogurt, but I've not done that just yet. So at this point in my life, I'm picking up the yogurt. Next on the list is cereal, and both of us enjoy cereal quite a bit. I love cold cereal. I also enjoy hot cereal. So definitely on my 20 item capsule grocery list, I have cold cereal as well as hot cereal. Now, what kind of cold cereal do we like? Well, first off, it's Raisin Bran Crunch. I do not like soggy cereal, so it's gotta be the Raisin Bran Crunch because it holds up to milk and it doesn't get soggy before you finish the bowl. The other thing I enjoy is Honey Nut Cheerios. They're heart healthy, they are lightly sweetened, and again, they don't get soggy. Now, the other one that I just happen to have is this crispy rice cereal, and it is the Kroger brand. Now, for those of you that know me, I typically do not buy off-brand products like this. However, I am going to make some granola, and you needed some puffed rice. So I figured I didn't need to spend the extra $2 for Rice Krispies since it was just going in granola. So I've got this crispy rice cereal from Kroger, and I'm sure it will do the trick. And we could eat it in a bowl if we were so inclined. And when it comes to hot cereal, I love cream of wheat. It's something that I always have here in the house. We had it at home when I was a girl. I have it here now, particularly if someone is ill, or if I'm ill, or if I'm just wanting some comfort food, I'll make myself some cream of wheat. When my grandchildren are here, they always want Grams to make some porridge, which is the cream of wheat. And oatmeal is certainly a hot cereal that we enjoy and so many other families enjoy as well. I can put it in my Instapot and make a fancy oatmeal with apples and raisins and all kinds of spices. You can do overnight oats. You can make oatmeal cookies, oatmeal muffins, and just so many things you can do with oatmeal. So cereal is definitely on my 20 item capsule grocery haul list. Sugar is number 20 on my 20 item capsule grocery list. Now here's the thing, I don't use a lot of sugar, but when I need it, I need it. And I mostly will use white sugar, and I will use it in baking and cooking and to sweeten tea and coffee and lemonade. I rarely use artificial sweetener. However, when I was at my son's most recently, he had some of this blue agave nectar light golden syrup, and it was delicious in tea and coffee, and my granddaughter was putting it on her pancakes, so I thought, let me give that a try. And then we use a lot of honey. I give my husband a cup of tea every morning in the winter time, and he sweetens it with honey. And then sometimes I'll put honey in tea at night if I'm just feeling a little restless, if I'm feeling like I'm catching a cold or whatever. So I will use honey as a sweetener or in baking, cooking, basting, that kind of thing. I love maple syrup on pancakes, and you can also use maple syrup as a sweetener. So I got some of that. And then of course you've got brown sugar that you can use as a sweetener in baking, in some of those fancy coffees and different things like that. Now if you wanted to try something that was a little bit maybe healthier than the white sugar, I got some of this Date Lady date sugar. And I bought it on the suggestion of my friend Mary from Mary's Nest. It says organic, GMO free, kosher, and gluten-free. And then of course I've got some coconut sugar. Now I've not tried coconut sugar or the date sugar, but my friend Mary highly recommends them, so I will be giving them a try and let you know what I think. But overall, sugar is a definite category or sweetener, however you want to call it, that I require on my 20 item capsule grocery haul. Now what you don't see here is pancake syrup, because I can make my own syrup if need be with sugar and then some of the different fruits that I have. Sugar, water, blueberries, or sugar, water, strawberries. I can create my own pancake syrup without much ado. And since I do enjoy maple syrup on pancakes, I do have a bottle of that. But I've also got some maple flavoring in my spice pantry that I can use as an extra, so I can make my own maple syrup if I need to. So what kind of sugar or sweetener, shall I say, do you prefer? Do you like to use those artificial sweeteners like stevia and truvia and all those other kinds? Or are you like me and I prefer to just, if I'm going to sweeten something, just to go ahead and use either regular sugar or honey, the agave, or maple syrup? Tell me in the comment section below. Now the bonus item is nuts. We use a lot of nuts in our home, so I really couldn't decide whether to make the nuts an itemized number, an itemized category on their own, or to use them as an extra. We use nuts, particularly pecans, almost every day. We put pecans on our oatmeal. We put pecans on ice cream. I use pecans in baking. So I use a lot of pecans. These slivered almonds I put in various baking recipes, or I might put them on salads or something like that. And then my husband likes these roasted deluxe nuts. He'll use those as snacks. Instead of chips, he'll have a handful of nuts. So of course we have a lot of mixed nuts. So I wasn't really sure what to do with them or where to put them. So where do you think I should put the nuts? Should I give them their own category and maybe move the bell peppers into the fruit category? Inquiring minds want to know. And I'd really like to know what makes your 20 item capsule grocery list. If you like this video, check out my healthy grocery haul right here.